and Skolthammer announced their joint retirement from competitive racing. Fellow Springbok Jeremy Davies puts in a final sprint for the national championship title. Yet more drama for Klaus Degener and Robin Yates in the Duckham's Chenoweth. And a last-ditch effort among championship contenders in the two-wheeler categories. Total invites you to sit back and enjoy the action and the excitement from the Wreckers to Nchu Sun 500, the final round of the Total GTE Off-Road Championship. For the best in motorsport action, turn to Total. To Nchu, big sky country and a magnificent backdrop for this last event of the season. As usual, pre-race paddock activity was high, with competitors attending to those last-minute details which could make or break their race for them. With championship points in some categories depending on this last event, nothing could be left to chance. Machines were checked and rechecked a dozen times. As was usual with off-road racing, everyone pitched in to help and assist drivers and riders before the race. Among the 200s, Richard Manning has dominated this season, with his fine overall win in the Toyota 1000 Desert Race contributing to his healthy position. However, Chris Dodd wasn't that far behind him and still stood a chance of beating Manning.
I'm only really worried that Richard does have, because he dropped one race over the whole year, so with the dropping some points, if he finishes in with the points, then he'll take the championship. If he doesn't finish, I've got to actually win, so there's a chance.
But Winston Yamaha rider Manning didn't intend throwing this race away and was in fine form during Friday's speed trial. Chasing Manning was Alex Vowles Jr. on the Antilex Dairy Kawasaki.
I've just won the Enduro Championship last weekend in Elands Valley, and I think my chances are pretty good of doing well here, so hopefully I can make it a double.
Steve Parker and VZ Van Zyl led their class throughout the year, and with the championship in the bag, the pair didn't need to pitch for this event. Derek Pinoy and Antoine Mering did well at the Roof of Africa in their Class 2 Beetle, and sharing the driving now expected another good result.
We got a very good chance of winning Class 2, and even category if we don't have any problems with the car. We're as competitive as anything in our category. The American cars are a little bit quicker in the rough, but we're not too worried about it.
Wilfried Veslau and Dagmar Blankner haven't done as well as expected this year, but nevertheless they gave it all they had for this final race. Jeremy Davies had a bad start to the season when he injured his knee, but a good finish at the roof and a win at the Mabatu Sun 500 boosted his points, and the championship was his if he finished this event. Anthony Taylor on the Vibro Bricks Suzuki had a bad fall during the speed trial, but kept on going.
Yeah, I hit a sheep about 15 k's, 20 k's into the second section. I went down quite hard, and I've tweaked my wrist thing, so I don't know what's open right for tomorrow. It's a bit sore at the moment.
Team Green Kawasaki rider Jannie de Bruin led the class all year before the return of Davies, and now in third place was taking it easy.
Die hoofdoel is om het laat te maak. Ek moet goed laat maak om punte te kry, so dis die hoofdoel. Fietsen probeer spaar en het laat te maak, maar ja, gaan voluit daarvoor.
On his Truck Africa KTM, Davies, South Africa's only Total Paris Le Cup rally entrant, displays his superb riding style, despite a slight miscalculation.
I must finish today, but it's also a problem to finish sometimes. When you go there to finish, it's more difficult than winning, but I'm here to do well, and I'll do my best.
In the commercial vehicle category, Alfred van Vuren and Piet Pelser have had no opposition this year. The Toyota Hilux featuring well at every event. Among the Class 6 buckies, Philip Milan and Richard Leek in their Toyota Hilux were out to beat the competitors Rainer Meintjes and Renier Jooster, the latter driving a Nissan Safari.
Soos dat het die einde van die jaar is, voel ek moet ons net klaarmaak en ons gaan so dit aanpak en ek is oortuig hierdie wedren gaan ons goed doen want ons is regtig baie rustig.
Despite their fast pace, the Nissan team was worried about the muddy conditions.
Nee, ons het gehoor maar by die ouens en ons sien dis baie nat. So ons is maar bang vir die water. Maar ons gaan maar kyk wat gebeur vorentoe.
Mud held no terrors for the Free State team of Van Veeren and Pelser in their Sasol Toyota Hilux, who are on home turf in this spectacular part of the world.
Ek gaan nou maar kalm ry. Ek laat ek net klaar maak, soos jy sê, ek is al wat ek nodig het. Ek moet klaar maak om my punte te hê, om al die titels te vat en niemand my kan vang nie. So ek gaan op my tyd ry en mooi ry, ek net probeer dat ek seker is ek maak klaar.
Back among the 500cc motorcycles, the championship hadn't yet been won, and despite Kevin Tebbett's lead, a non-finish could have dashed his hopes. For Castrol Barber Spun 500 winner Cocky Bainham, it was to be his last ride under the Pro Honda banner.
Kevin is 2 punte voor my, so die 500 klas is helemaal oop. Kevin Tappet train 6 punte, want hy moet nog 1 race drop, so hy is 6 punte voor my, so enig iets kan gebeur. Gaan 'n harde race wees, ek meen, enige een van ons 3 kan wen. Gaan maar alles gee, ek hoop ek wen.
Bad luck befell Kevin Fisher, who, although second in the championships, retired on Friday's stretch, blowing his chances completely.
I had to catch Tebbit and beat him this race to win the championship. Unfortunately, my big end on my bike put a hole in my casing, and it put me out of the race. That's it, my whole year championship gone.
Showing his speedway experience here was the ever-popular Kevin Tebbett, making this off-road business look so easy.
I will try and go win the championship, do well. I'm looking forward to it. I like this kind of country. I believe we're going on the mountains. I like it. I'm sure I'll do well.
Bucks Carolyn and Kenny Skolthammer had their Special Vehicles Championship sewn up neatly, and their Porsche-powered Castrol Raceco was ready to make mincemeat of the other competitors. Greg Wiebel and Warren Claassen have shown incredible form in their debut season with a 2nd overall at the roof, proving they've got what it takes. Raising some dust in their wake were Richard Schilling and Robbie Walk in the Motortech Raceco, who in turn were being chased by Klaus Degener and Robin Yates in the very muddy Duckham's Chenoweth.
I'm just going to go and do what I did in the roof. We're gonna drive hard. I think Warren's going to navigate it as well as he did in the roof, and I think that gave us a big opportunity in the roof because we never really wrong slotted, and that's how we're going to do it today. We're going to stick with the front runners and see what we can do on tomorrow. Tomorrow we race.
Some raced and some had bad luck. Class 9 driver Fast Fred Levesque had problems when his Motortech Chenoweth hit a hole and he lost a wheel. Although off-road drivers can normally make a plan, Levesque was eventually forced to concede defeat for the day and limp home on 3 wheels. Despite all this, he was back on the start line on Saturday morning on 4 wheels. Back among the Class 8 space frames, and Carolyn and Skolthammer were purring along nicely in their Raceco, despite earlier problems with ignition boxes.
Basically, I just have to finish to win the championship. It will be my 3rd championship in a row, and that equals Des Tarberton's record, and Des was always a man that I admired, and it's good enough for me.
Saturday morning's start was a 7 o'clock one, with Richard Schilling and Rob Walk leading the pack.
I believe that the second loop is really where it's quite tough. So I believe that's where the race will be sorted out. The last portion is very fast and there's not too much skill in that area. So the second loop is where the race will happen.
This is all part of the new image I'm going to portray from it now on. I've been responsible for a lot of the degradation of this sport, and I feel myself now responsible to provide a little bit of upliftment. It's time we had a better class of character in this off-road racing. This muddy mechanic image has to disappear in future.
And away they go, with the first 6 cars being space frames. Highest placed single-seater among the top 8 was Natal's Roger Westermeyer in the Eskimo Refrigeration Orco in 4th position. Leading the Class 2s in their VW Beetle were Derek Pinoy and Antoine Mering, with our Bucky Brigade and the badly smoking Toyota Hilux of Cassie Coetzee and Wiley Harrington behind them. 10th off the start line and a couple of seconds behind Coetzee and Harrington were husband and wife team Arnold and Estelle Mathieu in the Mayerton Toyota Raceco.
No, we just started, and as we go to second gear, there was a hell of a noise in the engine, and we couldn't find what is the problem, and I smell smoke, and then next thing it's electrical fault, a hole in the block.
Despite Schilling and Walk having led at the start, a puncture and then a broken side shaft retired their Motortech Raceco from the race, and saw Springboks, Bux Carolyn and Kenny Skolthammer soon pulling into the lead. The Castrol Raceco powering effortlessly through the dust. Klaus Degener and Robin Yates had started second, but a wrong slot here lost their Duckham's Chenoweth a few precious seconds. Degener has a reputation for foot-flat driving, and there was no doubt he'd make up the time easily. Besides, there's nothing he enjoys more than a top-speed dice with rival Carolyn. Leading Class 9 and third overall was Roger Westermeyer in the Eskimo Refrigeration Orco. Older vehicles like his suffer more punishment at these speeds than do the imported cars. The drivers always hope and pray their cars will last the race distance. For a change, the off-road gods were smiling on Philip Ballon and Richard Leek, whose powerful but not always reliable turbocharged Toyota Hilux had moved up to fourth overall and first in Class 6. Making a welcome return to racing were Jack Spencer and Vic Camper in the powerful Rover V8-powered Sandmaster, leading the newly introduced Class 8A. This class differs from the other Class 8s in that it incorporates only the older space frames as opposed to the newer high-tech American imports. The idea is to even out the chances among the Class 8 entries, usually the most competitive class in off-road racing. And doing his bit to prove that old needn't necessarily mean slow was Derek Pinoy along with Antoine Mering in the Class 2 Beetle. The two were way ahead of their rivals and lying in a very healthy 6th place overall. Class 5 leaders were Alfred van Veeren and Peert Pelzer, who've reigned supreme in this class throughout the season. Their Toyota Hilux was lying 9th overall, and with the commercial vehicle category already theirs, finishing this event was merely a formality for them. Also class leaders, but this time of Class 3, were Theo Kutsia and Ian Wedderburn in their Chevy 510, who are lying 15th overall. Right behind them, Stratford Voigt and Guido de Greef led the charge in the Class 4. Their powerful American Toyota Hilux sounding very strong as they blasted their way through the dusty field. The Gilo Engineering Bucky was making steady progress along the route, having moved from 23rd to 16th position. More class leaders, this time in the form of the PC Warehouse Class 10 Orco, driven by Ferdy Petersen and navigated by Martin van Eerden, who was successfully keeping the opposition at bay. Meanwhile, at the motorcycle start, Alfie Cox was ready to race in his third national event since his recent return from the USA.
You know, yesterday was very, very fast, and today we believe it's going to be a little bit tighter as we get further out, but coming home again is going to be very fast again. So, you know, the guy with the fastest bike could pull it off today, and, you know, I'm worried about the 500s. You know, they just got so much more speed than our 250s. So if we can pull a gap before the last 100 kilometers home on our 250s, we could probably pull it off.
I think the 250s and the 500s, there's not much of a difference here because the race is very fast and open. So I think they're very equal over here now. I think we'll have a good day today.
In the motorcycle category, the 250 and 500 classes were expected to be the front runners, with flat-out speeds bound to thrill the spectators along the way. First off was Jeremy Davies on the familiar Truck Africa KTM, followed by fellow Springbok Errol Dalton on the Hatz Diesel Kawasaki. Natal's Alfie Cox has an inimitable riding style, and here he and his Fortfire Kawasaki show why he's considered one of South Africa's best riders. Powering his way through the Tabanchu Bundu on his Pelham Products KTM was John Hodgson, who was sitting fourth in class and riding as consistently as always. Young Bevan Berthold was the first privateer among the top 10 and maintaining his pace on the KTM. Newly capped Springbok Sun City Honda rider Kevin Tebbett rode a hard and fast race, while behind him the first of the 200 class was setting a cracking pace. Chasing Yuri Human on the Hatz Diesel Kawasaki was Winston Yamaha rider Brian Bonterkoenen. There was drama for RP Reinecker and Lucas Dreyer, who smacked a tree in their BP Ford. Reinecker gave us some details.
Ons het gery agter die 'n kar wat net voor ons was en ons het probeer verbygaan. In die proses was dit teen 'n helling geweest. Dit was nat geweest, die gras is nat en het ons begin gly en ons voertuig het oorgereageer, oversteer soos die Engels sê. En ons kon hom net nie beheer nie en die volgende oomblik is teen 'n boom gebots. En dit was die einde van ons dag geweest.
And drama too for Klaus Degener and Robin Yates, whose petrol cans had taken in rainwater and had unknowingly been emptied into the Chenoweth's tank.
They put water in instead of petrol. Now this is a very silly thing to do, and we're not pleased with our service crew at all. And they're going to have their fingers smacked several times when we get back to the hotel.
Just outside Wepener, Carolyn and Skolthammer were going flat out, their Porsche-engined raceco performing effortlessly. At this pace, there was little chance of any of the competitors catching them before the finish. Way behind the dust of their raceco, Roger Westermeyer was going at top speed, having worked his way up to second position and still leading Class 9 in the Eskimo refrigeration Orco. Unbeknown to Westermeyer, pressure was arriving in the form of the powerful Toyota Hilux of Philip Milan and Richard Leake, which was approaching hard and fast. The Bucky team was to ultimately overtake Westermeyer's single-seater, who dropped back and finished 7th overall and 2nd in class at the end of the day. Lying 5th and going like the clappers were the Mateers in their Mayerton Toyota Raceco. They've had a relatively unsuccessful year in their new space frame, but were hoping to end the season with a good result. Second in Class 6 and 7th overall were Linton Draper, recently returned from racing in America, and Mike Pretorius in the Draper Excavator Hire Nissan Safari. Shaping well in the Rapsa Raceco were the Alberts brothers, Nardis and Paul. Nardis used to navigate for Robin Yates, but since buying the Raceco from his former driver, he's proved he's no slouch behind the steering wheel. For Greg Weevil and Warren Claassen, their race was to end before the finish when they broke the suspension of their Raceco Kojima. Back among the two-wheelers, Jeremy Davies was still in fine form as he rode into the first refuel point. Unfortunately, his luck didn't hold, and problems further on were to slow him down considerably. A rear puncture forced him to limp back to the service area to carry out repairs, waste valuable time and allow Alfie Cox to surge into the lead.
Okay. No, I can't see, man. Put in the lens, it's too dark. I think Alfie had a problem. He's coming. No, but I think he had a problem. Okay.
You go straight out, eh? Straight.
And Alfie was indeed on his way. With not just one, but two moose problems and then running out of fuel, Davies was to drop way back down the field while Cox took the lead and stayed there for the remainder of the race. Giving him a run for his money was 500 rider Errol Dalton on the Hats diesel Kawasaki. Bad luck befell Dalton, however, when he wrong-slotted near the finish and finally came home 5th overall. At this stage, Yuri Human was 3rd overall on the 200 Pro Honda Kawasaki and looking good as he blazed a trail of dust along the dirt roads. Barreling along at a good rate of knots on the Pelham Products KTM was John Hodgson, who didn't seem at all bothered by the dusty conditions which made visibility difficult at times. With a collapsed rear wheel and a long way to go to the service point, Jeremy Davies rode standing up to relieve the weight at the rear of the Truck Africa KTM. At this stage, he was down to 5th position, but knew that if he nursed the bike home, a finish would still secure him the 250 championship. Ever the showman, Winston Yamaha rider Brian Bontekoning was going along in fine style. Still leading the vehicles were Bux Carolyn and Kenny Skolthammer in their Castrol Raceco. Lying second were Philip Milan and Richard Leake in the Toyota Hilux, applying pressure from the rear with the two racecos of Arnold and Estelle Mathieu and Nardis and Paul Alberts. With their buckies sounding as good as new and still leading Class 5 and lying 5th overall were Alfred van Vuren and Piet Pelzer in the Sasol Toyota Hilux. Restoring the honour and glory to Natal was Rob Gibson in his Sealcoat Chenoweth, who after overtaking Roger Westermeyer went on to win Class 9 and take a well-deserved 6th overall. Lying second in Class 2 behind Derek Pinoy and Antoine Mering was Wilfried Westlau and Dagmar Blankner in the VW Brett Van Beetle. Making incredibly good time was Harry Roscoe in the Protea Playing Card Raceco. Due to wrong slotting the day before, Roscoe had started the second section half an hour behind the leaders. His troubles weren't over yet, though, and later he was plagued by engine misfires. Putting in a good show in Class 6 were Cliff Barker and Mike Redden in their SVM, who are lying third in class. Barker is one of the original designers and developers of the SVM, and if anybody knows how his vehicle works, Barker does. Off-road stalwarts Jackie Weldon and Andy Peaceful, who are lying second in Class 5, have had a consistent season in their new Comnitech Isuzu, a vehicle much faster and reliable than their original Class 10 Space Freight. Back on two wheels, and Alfie Cox was still in the lead on the Fort Fire Kawasaki, a blaze of bright green among the Tabanchu countryside. Lying a spectacular second was Yuri Human, who was obviously having the time of his life on the Pro Honda Kawasaki and making it look all so easy. Behind Human was the Pelham Products KTM of John Hodgson, as skillful as ever and still going consistently fast. Brian Bontekoning, who was to finish 6th overall in the 200 championship class, wasn't that slow either. He was hanging on the cable with the throttle wide open and at this stage lying 4th overall. Dropping back to 5th place, which is where he eventually finished, was Errol Dalton on the Hatz Diesel Kawasaki. Nevertheless, he still finished 3rd in the 500 championship class, only 12 points behind leader Kevin Tebbett. Graham McLaughlin on the Lesotho Office Equipment Kawasaki rode home to take 6th overall and 3rd in class. In the championship stakes, he finished 4th in the 200 category. Another win plus the championship title for Carolyn and Skolthammer.
That was the way to go out. If you're going to go out, go out in glory. They know that we've given them a carrot once and for all. That's it. We enjoyed the race. It was very fast. If it had been wet, it would have been something else. But seeing it was so dry, it was quick. But it was. Kenny and I enjoyed ourselves. We had fun. Nobody could catch us today.
37 vehicles finished the event, 20 of which were space frames, 12 buckies and the rest buggies. Alfie Cox won the motorcycle category on his Fort Fire Kawasaki, his second national win since his return home a few months ago.
This morning Jeremy and I were going together, and I had to stop and repair my side cover on my bike. I lost almost 3 minutes on him. So I came back to 2 minutes again, and just after the service point for the first time, Jeremy got a puncture in the rear wheel. So I caught him up past him, and he had to go slowly now to get back to the service again to repair the rear wheel, you know. And I've had Errol Dalton just behind me, you know, about 100 kilometers out. And I've been worried because it's a 500 and, you know, he's just so much faster on the fast roads. But the marking was excellent. It was a magic event. I really, really enjoyed it.
A total of 33 motorcycles finished this very quick race, the 200 class seeming to dominate the leading entries. Everyone agreed it was a great event with which to end the season. The Wreckers Tabanchu Sun 500 proved to be a fitting finale to the 1991 Total GTE Off-Road Championship for the best in motor.